You may have spoken to your body today only when you thought it was doing something wrong. You may have looked in the mirror and immediately searched for the part you wished were different. You may have pulled at your clothes, turned sideways, checked your face more closely than you needed to, or compared the person looking back at you with a version of yourself from another year. You may have felt tired and called yourself lazy. You may have felt hungry and questioned whether you had earned the right to eat. You may have felt tense and kept going because stopping seemed inconvenient. You may have noticed an ache, a change, a heaviness, a softness, a scar, a line, a shape, and before you even knew it, the first language that rose inside you was criticism. And there is something so ordinary about this that most people never question it. A person can move through an entire day noticing what the body fails to do while overlooking everything it quietly carries. You get out of bed and your feet meet the floor. Your hands reach for a cup. Your eyes adjust to morning light. Your mouth forms words. Your lungs continue their rhythm without asking for applause. Your heart keeps its own faithful timing. Your back carries the weight of your movements. Your skin meets heat, cold, fabric, water, wind, touch. Your body participates in thousands of small moments, and still, the moment you stand before a mirror, you may forget all of them. The mind can become so trained to search for problems that appreciation begins to feel unusual. You see what changed. You see what looks older. You see what feels slower. You see what no longer resembles an old photograph. You see the area that does not fit the expectation you once created. You see the part you have spent years trying to reduce, hide, tighten, fix, cover, erase, or explain. You see what hurts. You see what disappoints you. You see what frightens you. And sometimes, without realizing it, you begin to speak to your body as if it has personally betrayed you. As if it woke up one morning and decided to make your life harder. As if it should apologize for needing rest. As if it should be ashamed of changing. As if it should remain forever untouched by time, stress, grief, work, caregiving, illness, recovery, hormones, seasons of life, and everything else a human being moves through. You would never ask a tree to look exactly the same in every season. You would never look at a river after a storm and accuse it of failing because the water moved differently. Yet many people stand before their own bodies and demand permanence from something that has been living every second of their lives. This is not a criticism of you. This is not another lesson telling you that you have been thinking incorrectly and now need to become better at gratitude. That would only turn gratitude into another form of pressure. You do not need another task. You do not need another test. You do not need a perfect 7 days. Then, beneath your hands, imagine another pair of hands, smaller, cupped, waiting. They are not the hands of a stranger. They belong to the part of you that learned very early how to watch other people. The part that studied faces before speaking. The part that learned when to be quiet. The part that learned how to be good, how to be useful, how to make things easier, how to avoid becoming a burden, how to earn approval, how to hold something in rather than make the room uncomfortable. Those smaller hands have been waiting for something you have given away many times. Not praise, not perfection, not permission to become someone else. Warmth. The same warmth you have offered outward without asking whether the person receiving it had earned it first. And here is where the image changes. The flame in your grown hands was never meant to stay only there. It was meant to be passed inward. Care was never supposed to move in one direction. Love was never supposed to leave you every time it entered the room. The patience you know how to offer belongs here too. The understanding, the protection, the permission to need, the right to recover, the right to be imperfect, the right to be human inside a body that is human. You do not lose anything by passing the flame inward. That is important. Some people have lived so long by giving that receiving feels like taking. They worry that caring for themselves means someone else will receive less. If I rest, someone will be disappointed. If I say no, someone will have to adjust. If I stop criticizing myself, I will lose my discipline. If I make room for my needs, I will become selfish. But warmth is not a limited object you must steal from someone else. You are not taking the flame away from the people you love. You are learning not to leave yourself in darkness while you light every other room. There is a difference. For years you may have believed that being a good person meant carrying the flame outward until your own hands were empty. You may have been praised for it. Strong, reliable, generous, independent, selfless, always there, always available, always capable. And those qualities can be beautiful. But even beautiful qualities can become painful when they require you to disappear. Generosity does not need your exhaustion. Love does not need your self-rejection. Responsibility does not require cruelty. Strength does not require silence. The flame teaches this without argument. A flame needs fuel. A flame needs air. A flame needs protection from what would extinguish it. No one looks at a candle burning low and calls it lazy because it needs another source of fuel. No one shouts at the flame to make it steadier. No one insults it for reacting to wind. No one says, "You were brighter yesterday. What is wrong with you?" You understand instinctively that conditions matter. Yet with your own body, you may forget. You become tired and judge the tiredness instead of asking what conditions have surrounded you. You become tense and criticize the tension instead of asking what you have been carrying. You become depleted and accuse yourself of weakness instead of asking how long you have been giving without receiving. You become irritable and decide you are a bad person, instead of wondering whether you have been hungry, overstimulated, frightened, overworked, lonely, or without enough recovery. This does not mean every feeling has one simple explanation. It does not mean you should diagnose yourself through metaphors. It means you can become curious before becoming cruel. That one change can transform the quality of attention you bring to yourself. Curiosity asks, what is happening? Criticism asks, what is wrong with me? Curiosity opens a door. Criticism closes one. Curiosity listens. Criticism assumes. Over the next 7 days, this is one of the shifts you can begin practicing. Not perfect gratitude. Curious gratitude. The kind that says, I have overlooked you. Let me look again. On the first day, you may notice how much your body does before you thank it for anything. You wake, your eyes open. You stretch without planning the exact angle. Your hand reaches. Your feet find balance. Your body begins another day before your mind has finished deciding how it feels about the day. There is no need to make a ceremony of this. You might wash your face and think, thank you, hands. You might stand up from a chair and think, thank you, legs. You might eat and think, thank you for telling me I needed food. You might feel tired and think, thank you for telling me I need to slow down. These are not magic words. They are relationship words. That distinction matters. You are not using gratitude to control your body. You are not saying thank you as a bargain. Thank you, now change. Thank you, now look different. Thank you, now stop hurting. Thank you, now become younger. Thank you, now give me the outcome I want. That is not gratitude. That is negotiation, wearing gratitude's clothes. Real appreciation does not say, I will be kind if you perform. It says, I am learning to recognize you even while life is unfinished. Your body does not have to produce a reward before being spoken to with respect. This may feel unfamiliar because so much of modern life teaches transaction. Do this to get that. Eat this to become that. Move this much to earn that. Sleep this many hours to optimize that. Buy this to fix that. Measure this, track that, improve this, correct that. There can be useful information inside some of those things. Tracking can help some people, goals can help, structure can help, professional guidance can help. But when every relationship with the body becomes a transaction, the body starts to feel like a project you manage rather than a life you inhabit. A project is never finished. There is always another metric, another target, another flaw, another improvement. A living relationship is different. A relationship includes listening, patience, respect, boundaries, repair, moments of frustration, moments of appreciation, times when you understand each other, times when you do not. That is much closer to what these 7 days are about. You are not finishing the body. You are meeting it. The flame passes inward a little each time you choose relationship over correction. Each time you eat before you become desperate with hunger. Each time you stretch because it feels supportive rather than because you hate what you see. Each time you go to bed without turning rest into a reward for productivity. Each time you make an appointment because something concerns you instead of avoiding it out of fear. Each time you wear something because your body deserves comfort now, not only after some imagined future transformation. Each time you stop comparing your body with a person whose life, health, genetics, history, resources, age, circumstances, and needs are not yours. Each time you speak to the present body instead of constantly addressing an old photograph, that photograph may carry a version of you that you miss. There is no shame in that. You may miss the energy you had, the strength, the shape, the ease, the confidence, the health, the way clothing fit, the way you moved. You can miss those things without making the present version of you pay for their absence. The smaller hands inside you do not need another comparison. They need the flame. They need to know that change does not cancel belonging. Then think about how often the younger version of you may have believed love could be lost through change. Become less pleasing and people may turn away. Become difficult and people may leave. Need too much and you may become a burden. Look different and approval may disappear. Fail and warmth may be withdrawn. Even when nobody explicitly taught those lessons, a sensitive mind can build them from experience. Then the body becomes one more place where you try to guarantee belonging. If I can control this, I will be safe. If I can perfect this, I will be chosen. If I can improve this enough, I will stop worrying. If I can stay the same, nothing important will be taken from me. But bodies change because bodies live. The flame does not ask the smaller hands to become different before receiving warmth. That is the teaching. It is offered now, not later, not after improvement, not after approval, not after the scale changes, not after the face changes, not after the pain resolves, not after someone chooses you. Now, this is where gratitude becomes more than positive thinking. It becomes a refusal to postpone basic kindness. And there is a part of this that nobody says often enough. You can thank a body you are frustrated with. You can thank a body that scares you sometimes. You can thank a body you do not fully understand. You can thank a body with limitations. You can thank a body while grieving. You can thank a body while asking qualified professionals for help. You can thank a body without pretending everything feels good. Gratitude is not denial. It does not need you to call pain pleasant. It does not need you to call fear beautiful. It does not ask you to turn hardship into a lesson before you are ready. Sometimes gratitude is as plain as, "Thank you for getting me through today." Nothing more. There may be days in this 7-day practice when that is the only sentence you can honestly offer. Let it be enough. The goal is not emotional intensity. The goal is contact. You are making contact with a part of yourself that may have been addressed mostly through commands. Get up, keep going, work harder, do more, eat less, move more, stop crying, calm down, push through, do not make a fuss, do not be weak, do not need. Imagine replacing even a few of those commands with questions. What do you need? What would help? Are you tired? Are you hungry? Are you tense? Do you need space? Do you need movement? Do you need support? Do you need someone qualified to help you understand what is happening? Questions create room. Commands close it. This is the difference between holding the flame and gripping it. When you grip, you act from fear. When you hold, you act from care. Fear wants certainty immediately. Care can listen. Fear says, fix this now. Care says, let me understand what is here. Fear says, this change means something terrible. Wisdom says, I can gather information before deciding what it means. Fear says, I should hide this. Wisdom says, I can ask for support. Fear says, I must punish myself back into control. Care says, punishment is not the same as guidance. That contrast will become more important as these 7 days unfold. Because gratitude is easy when everything feels comfortable. The deeper practice appears when you meet something you do not like, a tired face, a sore back, a changed appetite, a body that needs more recovery than you expected, a body that does not respond to your plans on your preferred schedule, a body that asks you to revise your expectations. This is where the old habit may rush in. Criticize, control, compare, predict the worst. Withdraw affection. The flame offers another response. Protect what is vulnerable. Bring warmth closer. Look carefully. Ask what is needed. Do not confuse fear with truth. There is a kind of wisdom in learning not to react to your own body as if every discomfort were an enemy. Some sensations deserve practical attention. Some changes deserve professional evaluation. Some needs deserve immediate respect. Gratitude does not tell you to ignore any of that. It helps you approach yourself without hostility while you decide what support is appropriate. That can matter deeply, because when people are ashamed of their bodies, they may avoid looking after them. They may postpone appointments because they are afraid of judgment. They may hide symptoms because they feel embarrassed. They may avoid movement because they believe movement only counts when it is intense. They may stop doing enjoyable things until they reach a certain appearance. They may isolate themselves because they do not feel presentable enough to be seen. Shame often promises improvement while making care harder. Warmth works differently. Warmth says, you are worth taking care of now, not after. now. You deserve clothing that fits the body you have. You deserve food that nourishes you. You deserve rest. You deserve respectful medical care. You deserve movement that meets you where you are. You deserve to ask questions. You deserve to say when something hurts. You deserve boundaries around comments about your body. You deserve to leave conversations that reduce your worth to appearance. You deserve to exist without treating yourself as a public object under review. This is how the candle image becomes practical. It is not an ornament floating above real life. It comes with you, into the kitchen, into the mirror, into the doctor's office, into the changing room, into the photograph, into the moment someone makes a careless comment, into the moment you hear your own old criticism. You ask, am I protecting to us? He flame here, or am I blowing it out myself? Not with blame, with awareness. There will be moments when you forget. Of course there will. You have repeated some habits for years. 7 days do not erase history. That is not what makes the 7 days meaningful. Meaning comes from returning. You can speak harshly in the morning and choose differently at noon. You can compare yourself at noon and choose differently by evening. You can have a difficult day and still offer one respectful sentence before sleep. There is no broken streak. There is no failure chart. There is no punishment for missing a moment. The body does not need another system in which one imperfect day cancels everything. It needs relationship. Relationships include repair. If you hear yourself say, I hate how I look, you do not need to panic. You can stop there. You can say, that was harsh. You can try something more honest. I am having a difficult moment with how I see myself. That sentence is different. It does not pretend you love what you see. It also does not attack you. If you think my body is letting me down, you can stop. You can say, I am scared by what I am experiencing and I want support. Different. If you think I am so lazy, you can stop. You can say, I am tired and I want to understand what I need. Different. The flame does not require perfection. It requires protection. Protection sometimes sounds like changing one sentence. On another day, protection may mean refusing to join a conversation where everyone is criticizing their bodies. You know those conversations. Someone complains about their stomach. Another person criticizes their thighs. Someone jokes about getting old. Someone announces guilt over food. Someone describes exercise as payment. Soon everyone is contributing an insult. It can feel like bonding, but you are allowed to step out of that language. You do not need to lecture anyone. You do not need to correct the room. You can simply decide not to place your own body on the table for public criticism. That is also passing the flame inward. You can choose silence. You can change the subject. You can say, I am trying not to talk about myself that way anymore. A small boundary, a meaningful one. The younger part of you hears that. Those smaller hands learn something new. They learn that the grown version of you can protect the room now. They learn that not every old rule has authority. They learn that care can move inward without apology. They learn that being loved does not require being insulted first. And slowly, the image of the body begins to change, not necessarily in the mirror, in your relationship to it. That is the response worth becoming curious about. Do you recover from a harsh thought more quickly? Do you catch the comparison sooner? Do you rest before resentment begins? Do you recognize hunger without turning it into a debate? Do you ask for help with less shame? Do you speak with more accuracy and less cruelty? Do you feel less need to hide? Do you become more willing to look after yourself because you believe you are worth looking after? These shifts may be quiet. Quiet does not mean unimportant. A flame is quiet too. It still changes the darkness around it. By the second or third day, you may begin noticing language that once escaped your attention. You may hear how often you say, should. I should look different. I should have more energy. I should be over this. I should be stronger. I should not need this much rest. I should be able to handle this. Sometimes should is useful. Often it is an old demand disguised as truth. When you hear it, you can become curious. According to whom? According to what season of my life? According to what information? According to which old expectation? Is this wisdom or fear? Is this care or control? The candle gives you a simple test. Would you speak this sentence while placing warmth into those smaller hands? Would you look at that younger part of yourself and say, you should be ashamed of needing rest? Would you say you are only lovable if you change? Would you say your body must never inconvenience anyone? Would you say you have failed because you are not the same as you were? You already know the answer. Your voice would change. Your face would change. You would instinctively become more careful. That care belongs to you now, not only to the younger self you remember, to the adult body sitting here, to the face you have today, to the hands you have today, to the energy level you have today, to the needs you have today, to the version of you that exists before improvement. This is the center of the practice. You are not thanking the body because gratitude makes you virtuous. You are thanking it because relationship changes when appreciation enters. You listen differently to someone you respect. You care differently for something you value. You stop treating every need as an interruption. You stop making kindness conditional. And once that begins, another question appears. If the warmth was always in your hands, why did it feel so difficult to pass it inward? That answer reaches deeper than appearance, deeper than discipline, deeper than any mirror. It reaches the old belief that love must travel away from you to count, and that is the belief we are going to meet next. For many people, love has been easier to recognize when it is moving away from them. Giving feels familiar, receiving feels exposed, helping feels honorable. Needing help can feel uncomfortable. Encouraging someone else comes naturally. Speaking that same encouragement inward can feel almost embarrassing. You may have learned to recognize yourself through what you could provide. The person who remembers birthdays, the person who listens, the person who solves the problem, the person who stays late, the person who carries the extra bag, the person who gives up the better seat, the person who says, "I am fine, go ahead," the person who makes sure everyone else has enough. There can be real love in those actions. There can also be an old fear hidden beneath them. If I am useful, I belong. If I make myself easy to love, I will be safe. If I ask for very little, nobody will feel burdened by me. If I give enough warmth away, someone may decide I deserve some in return. The body learns to live inside that arrangement. It becomes the worker behind the scenes. It wakes when you ask it to wake. It moves when you ask it to move. It carries stress through meetings, family responsibilities, traffic, errands, uncertainty, disappointment, and long stretches of concentration. It waits while you finish what seems more important. It accepts the coffee instead of the rest. It accepts the quick meal instead of the slower one you wanted. It accepts another hour in the chair, another task, another promise, another yes you wanted to make into a no. Then one day it asks for something, more rest, a slower pace, attention, an appointment, food, space, a boundary, a different rhythm. And because giving has become your identity, receiving a request from your own body can feel strangely inconvenient. You may think, not now. I have too much to do. I cannot deal with this. I need you to cooperate. I need you to keep going. That is one of the painful ironies of being a deeply caring person. You can become so committed to carrying everyone that you begin treating the body doing the carrying as if it has no right to become tired. The flame stays pointed outward. Everyone sees the light. Few people see what it costs you to hold it there. This is why 7 days of gratitude can reveal more than 7 days of positive words. They expose the direction of your care. On one day, you may discover that thanking your hands feels easy. They work, they type, they wash, they cook, they hold, they create. That gratitude feels practical. Then you reach a part of your body you have judged for years, and everything changes. The words stop. You may feel resistance. You may think, I cannot thank that. That is the part I want to change. That is the part I hide. That is the part connected to memories I do not like. That is the part that hurts. That is the part I have fought with for years. This is where the practice becomes real. Not when gratitude flows easily. When you meet the place where love has been conditional. The goal is not to force appreciation. The goal is to see the condition. I can be kind to you when you behave the way I want. I can respect you when you look the way I prefer. I can thank you when you give me something pleasant. I can care for you when you stop inconveniencing me. Those conditions often sound reasonable because we have used them for so long. But imagine applying them to the smaller hands holding the flame. I will warm you when you become easier. I will protect you when you stop being afraid. I will speak kindly when you stop disappointing me. Something inside you immediately knows that this is not how care works. Care meets vulnerability because vulnerability is present. It does not wait until vulnerability disappears. This is why the candle must be passed inward before you feel completely ready. If you wait until every part of the body meets every expectation, the smaller hands may wait forever. There will always be change. There will always be some uncertainty. There will always be another season asking something new from you. No body remains frozen at its favorite age. No face keeps the same history. No energy level stays untouched by circumstance. No human life can guarantee complete control. The relationship has to become kinder inside reality, not after reality has been perfected. Think of how different it feels to enter a room where you know you are welcome. Your shoulders do not have to work as hard. You do not inspect every word before speaking. You do not search every face for evidence that you have made a mistake. You do not have to earn the chair beneath you. Now think about living inside a body that never knows whether it will be welcomed by you today. The mirror decides. The scale decides. The energy level decides. The clothing size decides. The photograph decides. Someone else's opinion decides. A symptom decides. A comparison decides. One difficult meal decides. One missed workout decides. One tired morning decides. What would it mean to remove some of those conditions? Not to remove responsibility. Not to stop making choices. To remove the threat that respect can be withdrawn at any moment. You can tell yourself, I may make changes, but I will not make contempt the price of change. That is a different relationship. You may choose to become stronger. You may choose to rest more. You may work with professionals on health concerns. You may change routines. You may change how you eat. You may change the way you move. You may change nothing for a while because life is asking for your energy elsewhere. The flame remains. Care does not have to disappear every time the plan changes. This matters because your body is always listening in the most ordinary sense. You hear your own words. You experience your own habits. You live inside the emotional atmosphere you create around yourself. If every meal begins with judgment, eating carries judgment. If every mirror begins with attack, seeing yourself carries attack. If every moment of fatigue begins with shame, rest carries shame. If every change begins with panic, adaptation becomes harder than it needs to be. The 7-day practice changes the atmosphere. It brings another language into the room. At first, the new language may feel weak compared with the old one. The old voice has years of repetition behind it. It knows exactly where to strike. Too soft, too old, too much, not enough. Look at that. You should be better by now. The new voice may arrive quietly. Thank you for today. That is enough. The old voice may laugh at it. That does not make the new voice false. Familiarity is not authority. The fact that criticism speaks faster does not mean criticism knows more. A new relationship often begins with sentences that feel awkward because the mouth is learning something the nervous system has not heard often. You may say thank you to your body and immediately hear another thought. For what? Look at everything that is wrong. This is where you do not need to argue. You do not have to build a courtroom inside your mind. You can answer with something specific. Thank you, hands, for making breakfast. Thank you, feet, for carrying me across the room. Thank you, eyes, for letting me see this face. Thank you, mouth, for helping me say what mattered. Thank you, back, for doing so much today. Thank you, stomach, for signaling your needs even when I do not always understand them. Thank you, chest, for holding laughter and grief. Thank you, skin, for meeting the world with me. Specific appreciation can be easier to receive than grand declarations. You do not have to say, I love everything about my body. That may be too far from where you are. You can say, this part of me has worked hard. You can say, I did not realize how rarely I acknowledge you. You can say, I am learning. The flame moves through those sentences, not dramatically. A little warmth enters a place that has mostly heard correction. That is enough to change the direction. There is another pattern worth seeing. Many people thank their bodies only for performance. Thank you for running. Thank you for lifting. Thank you for losing weight. Thank you for looking good today. Thank you for recovering quickly. Thank you for helping me get through the work. There is nothing wrong with appreciating what the body can do. But if performance is the only reason gratitude appears, the old condition remains. What about the body on the day it cannot perform? What about the tired body, the injured body, the changing body, the disabled body, the body in treatment, the body living with something difficult, the body that needs assistance, the body that rests, the body that does not produce anything impressive today? Is warmth withdrawn then? It does not have to be. A candle is still a flame when it burns low. Its worth does not depend on lighting an entire building. There are days when enough is small. Enough can be getting through the morning. Enough can be washing your face. Enough can be eating something. Enough can be answering one message. Enough can be lying down. Enough can be asking for help. Enough can be admitting that you are not fine. Your body does not have to impress you to deserve protection. This may reach a tender place, because some part of you may still believe usefulness is what makes you lovable. You may not use those words. You may feel them in the way you apologize when you cannot do what you normally do. The way you explain your tiredness as if standing before a judge. The way you feel embarrassed when someone helps you. The way you rush to repay kindness. The way receiving creates an urge to give something back immediately. The way compliments make you uncomfortable unless you can redirect attention. The way rest makes you scan the room for unfinished work. You do not need to wake tomorrow feeling in love with every part of yourself. You do not need to force a feeling that is not there. You do not need to look at something you have struggled with for years and suddenly call it beautiful if those words feel false in your mouth. Nothing here requires performance. Nothing here asks you to pretend. Nothing here asks you to deny discomfort, pain, frustration, or fear. The beginning is much smaller than that. The beginning is honesty without cruelty. That is enough. For some people, the body has become the place where frustration collects. A difficult day happens at work, and you come home feeling heavy in your own skin. Someone speaks carelessly to you, and later you stand in front of the mirror and find a reason to blame your appearance. A relationship ends, and suddenly every photograph of yourself becomes evidence in a case you are building against your own worth. You feel rejected, and the mind asks whether your body is the reason. You feel unseen, and the mind looks for something physical to accuse. You feel out of control somewhere in life, and controlling food, weight, movement, rest, or appearance begins to feel like the one place where certainty might still be possible. This is how the body can become the innocent place where emotional pain gets translated into physical judgment. Not because you are shallow, not because you lack self-love, not because you have failed spiritually, because the mind likes explanations. When something hurts emotionally and the answer is unclear, the mind searches for something concrete, something visible, something measurable, something it can point to and say, there, that must be the reason. The body is visible. so it becomes an easy target. You can measure it, photograph it, compare it, pinch it, hide it, dress it, judge it, track it, criticize it, try to control it. And for a little while, that can create the illusion that you are solving something. You may know this feeling. You may know what it is like to stand in a changing room beneath harsh lights and suddenly feel as if your entire life has been reduced to whether a piece of clothing fits. You may know what it is like to delete a photograph because your first reaction was not, "I was happy there," but "I do not like how I look." You may know what it is like to enter a room and wonder how your body is being evaluated before you wonder whether you feel safe, welcome, interested, curious, or alive. You may know what it is like to hear someone compliment you and immediately search for the hidden reason they must be wrong. You may know what it is like to receive affection and still feel that you need to hold your stomach in. You may know what it is like to sit down after a long day and feel guilty before your body has even fully reached the chair. You may know what it is like to wake already negotiating with yourself. What can I eat? What should I avoid? Receiving warmth can feel dangerous when your identity was built around providing it. Those smaller hands may hesitate when the flame comes near. Not because they do not want it, because they do not yet know whether it is safe to keep. Will this warmth disappear if I make a mistake? Will it be taken away tomorrow? Will I lose it if my body changes again? Will kindness vanish the next time I look in the mirror and feel disappointed? That question cannot be answered by one perfect affirmation. It is answered through repetition of a different kind, not mechanical repetition, reliability. You become the person who returns. You have a difficult morning and return. You criticize yourself and return. You forget gratitude for most of the day and return. You become frightened and return. You compare yourself and return. You feel disappointed and return. The flame is passed inward each time. This is how trust develops, not because you never break the pattern, because you repair it. Relationships become safe through repair. If you speak harshly to someone you love, you can acknowledge it. You can change your tone. You can make another choice. The relationship with your body deserves the same dignity. You may catch yourself saying something cruel. Instead of adding another layer of shame by saying, "I am terrible at self-love," you can respond differently. That sentence hurt. Let me begin from here. No punishment. No score. No ruined challenge. The purpose of 7 days is not 7 flawless performances. It is 7 opportunities to return, and if you truly understand that, the practice becomes lighter. You do not have to spend the whole day monitoring yourself. You live, you work, you speak, you eat, you move, you rest. Then a moment opens. You recognize the body. Thank you. That is all. A hand on the sink, feet beneath the desk, eyes tired after reading, shoulders carrying bags, fingers fastening a button, a mouth tasting warm food, a face meeting water, a body stepping outside. You recognize what is here. That recognition is the flame. By now, you may be wondering what response you are supposed to look for. The title of a 7-day practice can make the mind hungry for evidence. How will I know this is working? What should change? What am I supposed to feel? Should my body feel different tomorrow? Should I have more energy? Should something look different? This is where the old transactional mind can slip back in through another door. It tries to turn gratitude into a test. I thanked you. Now show me results. But care offered as a demand is still control. The deeper response is subtler. You may begin speaking more accurately. You may become quicker to recognize when you need food or rest. You may become less willing to participate in cruel body talk. You may choose clothing for comfort rather than punishment. You may ask a question you had been afraid to ask. You may become less frightened by the mirror because the mirror is no longer a courtroom. You may discover that your body is not taking up more space in your mind simply because you stopped attacking it. You may become more present in photographs because you are remembering the moment instead of examining yourself. You may feel appreciation for a part of you that has been ignored. You may begin caring for yourself earlier rather than waiting until you are completely depleted. These are responses too. They are not proof of a cure. They are evidence of a relationship changing. And relationship is where this practice belongs. At some point during these 7 days, one sentence can become a place to return to. Not a command, not a promise that everything changes. A statement of appreciation and direction. Here it is. Thank you, body, for carrying me. I am learning to meet you with kindness. You do not have to rush past the words. Thank you, body, for carrying me. I am learning to meet you with kindness. The first half recognizes history. The second half leaves room for growth. It does not say you have mastered kindness. It says you are learning. That word matters. Learning makes room for bad days. Learning makes room for old habits. Learning makes room for uncertainty. Learning does not demand perfection before you begin. Say it again, more gently. Thank you, body, for carrying me. I am learning to meet you with kindness. There may be one part of that sentence you resist more than the rest. It may be the first 2 words. Thank you. For someone who has had a relatively easy relationship with their body, thank you may feel natural. Or someone living with chronic pain, disability, illness, medical uncertainty, infertility, fatigue, changes from treatment, injury, grief, trauma, or an appearance they have struggled to accept. Those words can feel complicated. You may hear thank you and think, you do not understand. You may think, I feel betrayed by my body. You may think, I have lost things because of what happened physically. You may think gratitude feels dishonest. That resistance deserves respect. You are not required to feel thankful for pain. You are not required to celebrate limitation. You are not required to pretend that a difficult diagnosis, symptom, injury, or change has been a gift. You are not required to make suffering beautiful. That is not what this sentence asks. It asks whether there is anything in the relationship that can be met without contempt. Sometimes thank you is too far away. If that is true for you, do not force it. Forced gratitude becomes another performance. The smaller hands do not need performance. They need honesty. You can begin with willingness. I am willing to stop speaking to my body as if it were my enemy. I am willing to learn another language. I am willing to recognize one thing that is still supporting me. I am willing to become curious about what care looks like now. And when even those sentences feel large, there is one smaller line to carry. I am willing to find one thing I can appreciate about my body today. One thing, not everything, not your entire history, not every part. One thing. It may be your hands, your voice, your eyes. The fact that you felt the warmth of water, the fact that you tasted something you enjoyed, the fact that your body told you it was tired, the fact that you recognized tension and adjusted your position, the fact that you asked for help, the fact that you got through a difficult hour. Appreciation does not need to be spectacular to be real. One small point of warmth is still warmth. One flame is enough to begin passing light from one pair of hands to another. And something important happens when you stop demanding that gratitude cover the entire body at once. Resistance softens because it is no longer being conquered. You are working with truth. There may be parts of your body you can thank today. There may be parts you can only speak neutrally about. There may be parts you are still angry with. There may be parts connected to memories you are not ready to approach. You can leave those places alone for now. Care does not need to invade. The flame can stay nearby. There is dignity in saying, I am not ready to feel gratitude here, but I am willing to stop adding cruelty. That is a meaningful change. Imagine how much energy is used in fighting the body, checking, correcting, comparing, hiding, arguing, negotiating, promising punishment tomorrow for what happened today, replaying what you ate, replaying what you did not do, replaying what someone said about your appearance years ago, replaying an old photograph, replaying a number, replaying a fear. The mind can spend enormous amounts of attention trying to win a war that has no true victory. Because even if you reach one standard, life changes the conditions. Age moves. Circumstances change. Bodies adapt. Priorities shift. The only sustainable victory is ending the need for war. That does not mean abandoning goals. It means removing hatred from the fuel tank. You can still decide, still act, still seek care, still learn, still change, still work towards something important. You do not need contempt to power any of it. The candle does not burn better because you insult the wick. It burns because conditions support the flame. This is the difference between forcing and supporting. Forcing says, become different so I can relax. Supporting says, let me create conditions that respect what is true now. Forcing says, I cannot feel worthy until I reach the result. Supporting says, worth is not the reward for reaching the result. Forcing says, my body must obey my timetable. Supporting says, I can make thoughtful choices without pretending I control every outcome. Forcing is frightened. Support has room to listen. This does not mean you always know what your body needs. No one does. Signals can be confusing. Conditions can be complicated. Professional guidance can be necessary. You are not expected to become your own expert in everything. The practice is not knowing every answer. The practice is changing the attitude with which you meet the question. Instead of, what is wrong with me? What would support me here? Instead of, why can I not handle this? What has this day required from me? Instead of, why am I like this? What information am I missing? Instead of, how do I force myself back into control? What kind of care makes sense now? Those questions carry the flame. They protect dignity while leaving room for action. And there is another layer still. Sometimes the body criticism you think belongs to you is actually loyalty to someone else's voice, a voice from childhood, a former partner, a relative, a coach, a doctor who spoke without sensitivity, a classmate, a culture, a stranger online, someone whose words entered at a vulnerable moment and stayed. You may have been repeating that voice so long that it now sounds like your own. The 7-day practice gives you a chance to hear the difference. Whose sentence is this? Who taught me that this part of me was unacceptable? Who taught me that rest was weakness? Who taught me that aging was something to fear? Who taught me that smaller always meant better? Who taught me that I needed to earn food? Who taught me that my worth should rise and fall with appearance? Who taught me that pain should be hidden? Who taught me that strong people never need support? You do not ask these questions to create blame. You ask because inherited language can be returned. You are not required to keep every sentence that was handed to you. The smaller hands do not need to carry old voices forever. Your grown hands can decide what enters the room now. This sentence can stay. That one can leave. This belief supports me. That one wounds me. This advice belongs to my present life. That expectation belonged to someone else's fear. That is part of becoming your own safe authority. Not all-knowing, not isolated, able to choose whose language becomes home. And over these 7 days, you may discover that body gratitude is not mainly about saying thank you more often. It is about changing who gets the final word. The old critic may speak, the advertisement may speak, the photograph may speak, the comparison may speak, the fear may speak. Someone else's expectation may speak, but none of them automatically receives the final word. You can place your grown hands around the flame. You can turn toward those smaller hands. You can choose warmth without pretending everything is easy. That is where the deeper practice begins. Because once you stop treating gratitude as a demand for happiness, you become ready to ask a harder question. What does kindness require when the body is asking for something you cannot solve with an affirmation? Kindness does not always sound like an affirmation. Sometimes it sounds like, I need help with this. Sometimes it sounds like, this has been going on long enough for me to ask someone qualified. Sometimes it sounds like, I cannot keep pretending this does not hurt. Sometimes it sounds like, I need to leave this room. Sometimes it sounds like, I need more information before fear decides the story for me. Sometimes it sounds like, no. Sometimes it sounds like enough. Sometimes it sounds like I deserve support, even though I cannot explain everything perfectly. That is where gratitude becomes mature. It stops being a beautiful sentence you offer only when things feel easy and becomes a way of refusing to turn difficulty into self-rejection. You can appreciate your body and still seek answers. You can speak kindly to yourself and still admit that something feels wrong. You can value peace and still protect yourself fiercely. You can be spiritually hopeful and practically wise at the same time. There is no conflict between those things. The flame in your hands was never meant to replace action. It was meant to change the way you accompany yourself while action becomes necessary. Imagine those smaller hands receiving warmth while you make the appointment you have been postponing. Imagine them receiving warmth while you tell someone that their comments about your body are no longer welcome. Imagine them receiving warmth while you ask a trusted friend to come with you somewhere difficult. Imagine them receiving warmth while you admit that you are overwhelmed. Imagine them receiving warmth while you choose distance from someone who repeatedly makes you feel unsafe. That is care too. You are not proving gratitude by staying quiet. You are not proving love by tolerating harm. You are not becoming more spiritual by pretending everything is fine. Peace is not the same as passivity. Forgiveness is not permission for someone to continue hurting you. Compassion does not require access. Understanding another person does not require sacrificing your safety. And respect for your body can include leaving a situation that asks your body to remain tense, frightened, diminished, or endangered just to keep someone else comfortable. The body often knows the cost of environments long before the mind is ready to name it. You walk into a room and your jaw tightens. A certain name appears on your phone and your stomach drops. You hear footsteps and your shoulders rise. You prepare for a conversation and realize you have rehearsed every sentence because you are trying to prevent another person from becoming angry. Those experiences can have many meanings, and they are not a diagnosis by themselves, but they deserve your attention. You do not need to explain them away simply because you have become accustomed to them. Kindness may mean speaking with someone you trust. It may mean reaching toward community. It may mean seeking a qualified medical or mental health professional when what you are carrying is beyond what affirmations can support. These words can accompany well-being. They are not a substitute for health care, therapy, crisis support, legal guidance, or any other professional help you may need. Asking for skilled support is not evidence that your spiritual practice failed. It can be one of the clearest ways of protecting the flame. There are things warmth can soothe emotionally. There are things information must clarify. There are things treatment must address. There are things boundaries must stop. There are things time must unfold. Wisdom does not force all of them into the same answer. This may be especially important if you have spent years believing that being positive means never naming what hurts. You may have heard messages suggesting that every difficult experience comes from the way you think. That if you were grateful enough, loving enough, peaceful enough, or spiritually aligned enough, nothing painful would happen. That idea can become another weapon against a vulnerable person. You do not need it. Your thoughts did not make you deserving of illness. Your emotional struggles did not make you deserving of abuse. Your fear does not make you responsible for another person's cruelty. Your imperfect gratitude does not make difficult circumstances your fault. A human life is more complex than that. You can work with your thoughts because thoughts influence the way you experience and respond to life without claiming that they control every event. You can cultivate kindness without using kindness to explain away injustice. You can choose hope without blaming yourself for uncertainty. You can thank the body without insisting that gratitude must produce a physical result on command. That distinction protects the heart of this practice because the body does not need another reason to be blamed. It needs a relationship where truth is permitted. If you are tired, truth can say tired. If you are afraid, truth can say afraid. If you need help, truth can say help. If you need a boundary, truth can say no. If you do not know, truth can say, I do not know yet. There is dignity in that. The old pattern may have taught you to turn every need into a character judgment. I am tired becomes I am lazy. I am overwhelmed becomes I am weak. I need help becomes I am incapable. I am uncomfortable becomes I am difficult. I need distance becomes I am selfish. I am scared becomes I am negative. 7 days of gratitude can begin separating the experience from the insult. You can be tired without becoming lazy in your own story. You can be overwhelmed without becoming a failure. You can need help without becoming helpless. You can set a boundary without becoming cruel. You can feel fear without turning fear into prophecy. The flame gives each experience somewhere kinder to land. And perhaps this is the answer to the question that has been quietly waiting since the beginning. What does the body do when you stop demanding that it earn kindness? It does not owe you a miracle. It does not owe you instant comfort. It does not owe you visible proof. The first response may happen in the relationship. You stop arguing with every signal. You stop using every mirror as a verdict. You stop making rest into a moral problem. You stop treating support as defeat. You begin to hear needs before they become emergencies. You become more willing to care for yourself before you are depleted. You may speak differently in the doctor's office. You may ask the question you were embarrassed to ask. You may wear the clothing that fits today instead of punishing yourself with clothing meant for another version of you. You may move because movement feels supportive, not because you are trying to repay a debt to your own body. You may eat without turning the plate into a courtroom. You may catch the old insult and decide not to finish it. You may let a photograph become a memory again instead of an examination. That is response, quiet response, human response, relationship response. The body may not transform according to a 7-day timetable, and no honest practice should promise that it will. But the way you inhabit your body can begin changing as soon as the conversation changes. The wapu o gi ti kai. A you listen can change. The way you respond to need can change. The way you interpret imperfection can change. The way you offer care can change. That is why the practice matters. Not because 7 is a magical number. Not because you have found a formula that forces the body to obey. Because 7 days is long enough to catch yourself in different moods. A good morning, a hard afternoon, a rushed day, a lonely evening, a day when gratitude flows, a day when it does not, a day when you like the mirror, a day when you turn away from it, a day when the body feels capable, a day when the body asks for more. You begin to see whether your care survives changing conditions. That is the real experiment. Can warmth remain available when you are disappointed? Can respect remain when you are frustrated? Can you protect the flame on a day when you do not feel beautiful, energetic, productive, strong, or certain? Those are the days that tell the truth. Anyone can praise the flame when it burns brightly. Relationship is revealed when the flame is small. You do not shout at it. You bring your hands closer. You shield it. You check what it needs. You do not blame it for reacting to the wind. This is where the metaphor becomes more than imagery. It becomes a decision. The old response says, "Perform for me, and then I will care." The new response says, "Care is how I meet you while we discover what comes next." That is an enormous difference. One is conditional, the other is relational. One creates a body that is always being evaluated. The other creates an inner home where needs can be heard without instantly becoming evidence of failure. You may not realize how much energy evaluation consumes until you reduce it. Imagine waking without immediately deciding whether your body is acceptable today. Imagine eating without calculating your moral worth. Imagine seeing another person's beauty without using it against yourself. Imagine becoming tired and responding with information instead of insult. Imagine hearing an unkind comment and knowing it belongs to the speaker rather than storing it as a permanent instruction. Imagine going through one entire afternoon without trying to become visually smaller inside your own mind. There is room in that, room for attention, room for pleasure, room for work that matters, room for conversation, room for curiosity, room for life beyond constant self-surveillance. This is one reason body gratitude is not vanity. It can actually reduce the amount of time appearance occupies. When the body is no longer an emergency project, you can return attention to living through it. You taste the meal instead of judging yourself while eating it. You walk through the place instead of wondering how you appear while walking. You hear the joke instead of adjusting your clothing. You enter the photograph instead of leaving the moment mentally to inspect your face. You hug someone without thinking about the shape of your body between their arms. You swim, you dance, you sit, you stretch, you rest, you exist. The flame makes space for existence. Those smaller hands were never asking you to spend your whole life thinking about the body. They were asking to stop being punished for having one. There is a difference. And somewhere around this point in the 7-day practice, you may begin noticing another truth. Some of your body criticism has not actually been about your body at all. It has been grief wearing a physical mask, fear wearing a physical mask, rejection wearing a physical mask, loneliness wearing a physical mask, the need for control wearing a physical mask, a painful comment wearing a physical mask, an old expectation wearing a physical mask. You thought you were fighting a stomach, a face, a number, a scar, a line, an age, a shape. Sometimes you were fighting the feeling underneath. If I looked different, I would feel safe. If I looked different, they would have stayed. If I looked different, I would be chosen. If I looked different, I would stop being afraid. If I looked different, I would finally belong. That is a heavy promise to place on flesh. The body cannot guarantee belonging. It cannot guarantee another person's loyalty. It cannot protect you from every rejection. It cannot stop time. It cannot create certainty where life contains uncertainty. When you ask it to do those things, the body is given a job no body could complete. Then you punish it for failing. The smaller hands deserve another message. Belonging does not have to be purchased through appearance. Safety deserves more reliable foundations. Love worth having cannot require your permanent self-rejection. Your body does not need to become evidence in the case for whether you deserve to be here. You are already here, living, breathing, learning, carrying a history, holding a flame. There is another kind of responsibility available now, not the responsibility to control every outcome, the responsibility to become trustworthy toward yourself. That word matters. Trustworthy. Can the body bring you tiredness without being insulted? Can hunger arrive without being treated as betrayal? Can grief enter without being hurried away? Can a boundary rise without being crushed by guilt? Can fear speak without being given complete authority? Can you receive information without turning it instantly into shame? Trust grows when the answer becomes more often yes, not always, more often. The grown hands become trustworthy through what they do when the smaller hands tremble. They do not disappear. They do not throw the flame away. They do not demand bravery first. They steady. They shelter. They hold warmth near enough to be received. This is where your vow belongs. Not as a vow to become perfect, not as a vow that your body must change, not as a vow to feel grateful every hour, a vow about what you will do with the flame. I pass the warmth inward, and I shelter this flame with care. That is the promise. I pass the warmth inward, and I shelter this flame with care. The words are small enough to live. Passing inward means care is no longer reserved only for everyone else. Sheltering means you do not expose the most vulnerable part of yourself to unnecessary cruelty. The flame means the warmth already exists. You are not creating it from nothing. You have shown proof of it every time you cared for another human being. You are redirecting some of what you already know. This vow may show up tomorrow in a way that looks almost unimpressive. You are standing before the mirror. The old sentence begins. You do not finish it. Warmth passed inward. Someone makes a comment about your body. You decide you do not need to laugh along. Flame sheltered. You are exhausted and about to call yourself useless. You choose a more accurate sentence. Warmth passed inward. Something concerns you physically, and fear tells you to avoid knowing more. You reach for appropriate support. Flame sheltered. You feel guilty for needing rest. You remember that exhaustion is not a moral test. Warmth passed inward. Someone repeatedly ignores your boundary. You stop explaining and begin protecting. Flame sheltered. That is how vows become real. Not through intensity, through ordinary decisions. And there is something else the younger part of you needs to learn. Protection does not always mean becoming harder. Sometimes protection is softness with a boundary around it. You can remain compassionate without remaining available to disrespect. You can love someone and decline what they ask. You can understand why someone behaves as they do and still decide that their behavior cannot continue around you. You can care deeply without handing another person control over the language you use toward yourself. This matters if someone has trained you to distrust your own body. Maybe they mocked your appearance and called it honesty. Maybe they ignored your physical boundaries and told you that you were too sensitive. Maybe they treated your needs as inconvenient. Maybe they told you what you should wear, eat, weigh, hide, reveal, change, or tolerate. The gratitude practice is not an invitation to make peace with mistreatment. It is an invitation to come back into alliance with yourself. Your body is not public property. Your comfort matters. Your consent matters. Your safety matters. Your limits matter. Your right to seek help matters. A healthy spiritual practice should make those truths clearer, not blur them. The flame is not used to excuse the wind. It helps you recognize and shelter is needed. That is wisdom. And if your circumstances are complicated, if leaving or changing something is not easy, kindness does not demand that you solve it all at once. You can begin with truth. This hurts. This scares me. This does not feel safe. I need someone trustworthy to know. I need information. I need support. One honest sentence can become the first protected space around the flame. You do not have to perform courage. You can build support. The 7-day practice was never meant to isolate you inside positive thinking. It was meant to change the way you stand beside your own experience while real life continues. And real life contains days when the body does not cooperate with your hopes. It contains waiting rooms, unexpected changes, aging parents, stress, recovery, disappointment, caregiving, loss, new beginnings, responsibilities, bodies that ask for adaptation. There will be things gratitude cannot fix. How much do I need to do? How productive must I be before I am permitted to rest? How much better do I need to look before I am permitted to feel good? How much stronger must I become before I am allowed to respect myself? The questions can become so familiar that they stop sounding harsh. They just sound normal. That is how deeply a pattern can settle in. It becomes background noise, a quiet commentary running beneath ordinary life. You walk past a reflection. The commentary begins. You bend down. The commentary begins. You feel tired. The commentary begins. You eat something enjoyable. The commentary begins. You cancel a plan because you need rest. The commentary begins. You see someone younger. The commentary begins. You see someone thinner, stronger, healthier looking, more energetic, or simply different from you. The commentary begins. And after years of this, you may no longer recognize the voice as something learned. It may feel like truth, but a thought repeated often can feel true without becoming kind, accurate, or useful. Many of the things you learned to say about your body did not begin with you. Someone made a remark when you were young. Someone praised one kind of body and mocked another. Someone spoke about food as if it carried moral value. Someone treated weight as character. Someone admired exhaustion as proof of dedication. Someone taught you to be useful before being rested. Someone told you, directly or indirectly, that taking care of yourself was selfish. Someone commented on your face, your shape, your skin, your hair, your posture, your appetite, your age, your clothes, or the amount of space you took up. Maybe nobody meant to create a lifelong wound. People often hand down what was handed to them. A parent criticizes their own body in front of a child, never realizing he, child, is learning the language. A relative makes a joke and forgets it by dinner, while the person who heard it carries it for 20 years. A teacher praises discipline, but never explains the difference between discipline and self-punishment. A culture repeats impossible images until ordinary bodies begin to look like problems. A workplace rewards people who ignore exhaustion. A family celebrates the one who never needs anything. Slowly, the message settles in. Your body is acceptable when it causes no inconvenience. Your body is valuable when other people approve of it. Your body deserves care after everything else is finished. Your body must prove itself before receiving kindness. You may never have said these beliefs aloud. Still, they can shape an entire life. You see it in the way you postpone the bathroom because you are busy. The way you skip water because one more email feels urgent. The way you remain seated in discomfort because you do not want to interrupt. The way you work through hunger. The way you treat sleep as negotiable. Gratitude can still keep you from becoming another source of harm to yourself while you move through them. That is no small thing. Imagine facing uncertainty without simultaneously attacking yourself. Imagine needing help without adding shame. Imagine receiving difficult news and refusing to make it a verdict on your worth. Imagine living with a limitation without calling yourself less human. Imagine mourning what has changed while remaining loyal to what is here. That is a profound form of companionship. You become less interested in asking, how do I make my body prove that I am safe? You become more interested in asking, how do I create safety around the life I actually have? Those questions lead to different choices. The first may lead to endless control. The second can lead to information, boundaries, community, rest, support, appropriate care, honest conversations, and practical adjustment. One keeps tightening the grip around the flame. The other cups the hands. There is the first loop finally closing. The body was never waiting for the perfect words. It was waiting for the quality inside them. You could say thank you 100 times while secretly demanding repayment. Or you could say one honest sentence and change the relationship. I am here. I am listening. I will respond with care where I can. That is the response beneath the response, not a body performing on command, a person becoming safer to live inside. And once that begins, another smaller question appears. If your body no longer has to spend every day auditioning for your approval, what could all that reclaimed attention be used for? That answer does not live in the mirror. It lives in the hours that the mirror used to steal. In the meal you finally taste. In the conversation you stay present for. In the walk that becomes a walk rather these, and a calculation. In the clothing that lets you breathe. In the work your hands make. In the rest you receive without prosecution. In the boundaries that return energy to you. In the ordinary experience of occupying your own life. That is where the next part of these 7 days begins. Not with more scrutiny, with participation. You can move through your day asking less often, how do I look from the outside? You can begin asking, what am I experiencing from the inside? What can these eyes enjoy? What can these hands make? Where can these feet take me? What music does this body want to hear? What food can I actually taste instead of judging? What conversation deserves my full presence? What beauty exists in the room that has nothing to do with my reflection? You have spent enough time watching yourself live. You are allowed to live. That may be one of the greatest gifts hidden inside body gratitude. Not obsession with the body. Freedom from making the body the center of every judgment. You thank it, care for it, listen when something deserves attention, seek support when needed, protect it where boundaries matter, and then you return to life. The flame is not meant to become another thing you stare at anxiously. It is meant to light the room. You carry it. You use its warmth. You see more because it is there. And over the remaining days of this practice, the question will become less about whether you can produce gratitude and more about what gratitude lets you return to. Your senses, your presence, your choices, your voice, your relationships, your creativity, your rest, your life. The smaller hands do not need to remain cupped forever. Once they learn that warmth is not going to be withdrawn every time you struggle, they can begin to open. They can touch, create, receive, reach, rest. The light no longer has to be guarded through fear. It can be carried through trust. There are still parts of your body you may not understand. There may still be mornings when the mirror catches you at the wrong moment. There may still be old sentences that return faster than you expected. That does not break the vow. You know what to do when the flame flickers. You bring your hands closer. You pass the warmth inward. You shelter what is vulnerable. You seek real support where support is needed. You choose truth over punishment. You protect the right to be human while change remains unfinished. And from there, gratitude can travel out of the mind and into the body itself, not as a demand that each part feel different, as acknowledgement, from the face that has carried your expressions to the feet that have met the ground beneath your life, one part at a time, not to inspect, to recognize. Recognition can begin at the top of you and travel downward without becoming another inspection. You do not need to search for flaws. You do not need to evaluate symmetry, shape, age, strength, or appearance. This is not a scan for what should be corrected. It is a way of meeting what has been carrying your life. Begin with your forehead. Think of how many expressions have passed across it without your permission. Concentration, confusion, concern, laughter, surprise, the effort of trying to understand, the strain of holding too many details in your mind at once. Your forehead has been part of every face you made while learning how to live. You may have criticized the lines there. You may have wished the skin looked smoother. But those lines have also moved with every question you asked, every smile you could not hide, every moment you looked across a room and recognized someone you loved. You do not have to call them beautiful. You can recognize that they belong to a living face. Thank you for carrying expression. Then your eyes. How much have they seen? Some things you wish you could see again. Some things you wish you had never seen. Ordinary mornings, hospital rooms, birthdays, goodbyes, receipts, sunsets, computer screens, faces across tables, roads at night, words that changed something in you, the ceiling when sleep would not come, the first light after a difficult night. Eyes do more than help you look at yourself. They give you access to a world larger than the mirror. For 7 days, you might let that become part of the practice. Whenever the mirror becomes too loud, look beyond it. Find something else worth seeing. The color of the sky, a cup in your hand, a tree outside a window, someone's expression, the texture of a wall, a page, a flower, a street, a pet resting nearby. Give your eyes another job besides examining you. Thank you for letting me see beyond myself. Then the muscles around your eyes, the places where smiling gathers, the places where tiredness shows, the places you may try to hide in photographs. There is no requirement to celebrate every change. Just stop treating evidence of living as evidence against you. Your face is not failing because it records time. Your face has been participating. Then your jaw. How much have you held there? Words you did not say, responses you delayed, frustration you swallowed because the moment was not right. Concentration, stress, determination. The effort of trying to remain composed when something inside you wanted to cry, shout, leave, or ask for help. You may find tension there often. That does not make the jaw an enemy. It may be part of how your body responds when you are carrying more than usual. You can meet it without accusation. You can soften the way you speak about it. You can seek appropriate support if pain or tension concerns you. You can become curious about and it appears. You can stop turning every sensation into proof that something is wrong with who you are. Thank you for all the words you have helped me form. Thank you for every laugh, every meal, every difficult truth, every time I finally said no. Then your mouth, your lips, your tongue, your teeth. The ordinary machinery of speaking, tasting, swallowing, smiling, communicating. Think of the number of times your mouth has been used to comfort someone else. You have said, "I am here. I understand." Take your time. You are doing your best. Please be careful. Call me when you get home. You have offered warmth through language. These 7 days ask you to let some of those sentences turn around. I am here. Toward yourself. Take your time. Toward yourself. You are doing your best. Toward yourself. The flame passes inward through language. There is no need for a dramatic declaration. The mouth that has encouraged others can learn to stop wounding the person it belongs to. Then your throat, the place through which your voice enters the world. There may have been times when your voice shook, times when you spoke anyway, times when you remained silent because silence felt safer. Times when you wanted to say something and could not find the words. Times when you finally said what had been waiting for years. Your voice has changed across your life. Your vocabulary changed. Your confidence changed. Your boundaries changed. The things you tolerate may have changed. The things you can name may have changed. Thank your throat not because every word has been perfect, but because expression is part of being alive. You are still learning what deserves to be spoken. You are still learning what no longer deserves explanation. Then your shoulders. How easily people speak of shoulders as if their only purpose is carrying. Carry responsibility. Carry the family. Carry the workload. Carry everyone else's expectations. Carry on. Your shoulders were never meant to become proof that you can withstand unlimited weight. They connect. They move. They help your arms reach. They help you lift, dress, work, embrace, wave, cook, clean, create. If they are tired, tiredness does not reduce their worth. If they hurt, pain is not a moral weakness. If they need care, that need deserves attention. You can thank them without asking them to carry more. That may be important. Sometimes gratitude has been taught as a reason to tolerate more. Be grateful you have a job, so never complain. Be grateful you have family, so never set a boundary. Be grateful someone loves you, so accept whatever comes with it. Be grateful your body can do this much, so force it to do more. Ciao. That is not the gratitude we are practicing. Gratitude and discernment belong together. You can appreciate what something gives while recognizing when the cost is too high. You can thank your shoulders and put something down, then your arms. Think about what they have reached for. People, objects, work, comfort, support, doors, steering wheels, groceries, children, books, blankets, tools. You have reached outward thousands of times. Now imagine the flame traveling through those arms back toward you. Care does not always need to be sent away. Your arms can hold your own body too. They can pull a blanket around you. They can prepare food for you. They can close a door when you need quiet. They can carry you toward support. They can cross over your chest when something hurts emotionally. They can create. They can refuse. They can rest. Thank you for reaching. Thank you for carrying. Thank you for knowing when it is time to put something down. Then your hands. These hands have been central to the image from the beginning. Your grown hands, capable hands, hands that have learned from years of use. Look at them someday without immediately asking whether they appear young, smooth, strong, elegant, or perfect. Look at what they know: how to turn a key, how to open a door, how to hold a cup without measuring the exact pressure, how to type familiar words, how to button clothing, how to wash your face, how to touch someone with care, how to sign your name, how to point towards something beautiful, how to prepare what nourishes you, how to hold the smaller hands inside the image. These are the hands carrying the candle. The metaphor matters because hands can hold without controlling. A cupped hand creates protection through shape, not force. That is the relationship you are practicing with yourself. Enough structure to protect, enough openness for air, enough closeness for warmth, not a fist, a shelter. When you hear the old critical voice during these 7 days, think of the difference between those shapes. Am I becoming a fist around myself or a shelter? That question may help more than trying to manufacture a positive thought. A fist tightens. A shelter makes room. You do not need to answer perfectly. You only need to hear the difference. Then your chest. You may have praised it, judged it, hidden it, worried about it, compared it, felt proud of it, felt self-conscious about it. But beneath appearance is a whole region of your body that has accompanied emotion. Laughter moves there. Grief can feel heavy there. Relief can feel spacious there. Fear can tighten the breath. Love can arrive as warmth. The chest has been part of the physical experience of feeling. You do not have to interpret every sensation emotionally. You do not have to decide that a thought caused something physical. If a symptom concerns you, qualified medical care matters. The gratitude practice remains simple. You recognize the place. Thank you for being part of every deep laugh. Thank you for every breath I have consciously appreciated. Thank you for being here through joy and sorrow. Then your heart. You do not need to turn it into a spiritual machine. It is an organ deserving appropriate medical care like any other part of the body. It also carries enormous symbolic meaning in human language. We say heartbroken, wholehearted. Take heart, follow your heart. From the bottom of my heart. Across cultures and generations, human beings have used the heart to speak about love, courage, grief, sincerity, and connection. For these 7 days, let the symbolism stay humble. You do not command the heart. You appreciate the life you are experiencing through this body while caring for your actual health with practical wisdom. Thank you for this day. That can be enough. Then the area of your stomach. This may be a tender place for many people, a place criticized in mirrors, held in, hidden beneath clothing, judged after meals, compared with old photographs, turned into a symbol of discipline or failure. For 7 days, consider removing some of that symbolic weight. Your stomach is not your moral resume. Your waist is not your character. A meal does not determine your worth. The body changes across time for countless reasons. You do not need to reduce yourself to one area. If this is a part of your body you have fought with, neutrality is enough. You do not need to say, I love this. You can say, I am willing to stop insulting you. That is protection. You can place the flame nearby without forcing gratitude. You can say, I know I have been hard on you. I am learning another way. There are areas where appreciation enters through apology first. Not a dramatic apology. Recognition. I have treated you as if you were the reason I did not deserve to feel confident. I have asked you to carry emotions that belong to other experiences. I have blamed you for someone else's opinion. I have postponed living until you changed. I am beginning to see that. There is power in seeing. Then your back. How often do you notice your back only when it complains? It has supported sitting, standing, turning, bending, working, resting, traveling, holding. A back can become tired. It can need professional care. It can change what you are able to do. The practice does not ask you to ignore any of that. It asks you to stop thinking of your body only at the moment it becomes inconvenient. Tut, thank you for every ordinary day I forgot to acknowledge you. That sentence can travel to many parts of the body. Thank you for every ordinary day I forgot to acknowledge you. You do not need to wait for a problem to become grateful for presence. Then your hips, the center of so much movement. A part of the body people may judge through appearance while overlooking function, balance, movement, stability, history. Your hips have moved differently in different seasons of life. There may have been injury, pregnancy, birth, age, work, sport, illness, recovery, changes you expected, changes you did not. Your body is not required to repeat an old version of movement forever. You can work toward strength if that supports you. You can seek care when needed. You can modify, adapt, use assistance. Rest. None of these choices make the body less deserving of respect than your legs. Think about distance, not only miles. Life distance. Every room you walked into frightened. Every place you walked out of stronger. Every ordinary trip from bedroom to kitchen. Every staircase, every hallway, every sidewalk, every supermarket aisle, every place where you stood waiting, every moment when your legs felt strong, every moment when they did not. If you use mobility aids, if your movement is limited, if your legs work differently from someone else's, gratitude does not require comparison. Worth does not depend on independent movement. A body using support is still a body worthy of respect. A body adapting is still your home. There is no hierarchy of human dignity based on how far someone can walk. Let that truth belong here. Then your knees. How often do we demand flexibility from ourselves emotionally while condemning the body for needing support? Your knees participate in change of direction. Standing, sitting, rising, lowering. Movement can be so automatic that you only recognize the complexity after something becomes difficult. That recognition need not turn into fear. It can become appreciation, where appreciation feels honest, and practical care where care is required. Then your feet, the lowest part of you, often squeezed into shoes, ignored until they ache, judged for how they look. Yet they have met the ground for you over and over. Different floors, different houses, different cities, different chapters. They have stood in places you once dreamed of reaching. They have also stood in places you could not wait to leave. They have carried you toward people, away from people, into work, out of work, toward beginnings, through endings. Thank them not because everyone has the same mobility, but because this practice is about recognizing your own lived relationship without comparison. The candle has traveled all the way. Down now. not as literal light moving through anatomy, as attention-changing quality. Forehead, eyes, jaw, throat, shoulders, chest, hands, stomach, back, hips, legs, feet. You have gone from top to bottom without asking any part to become different first. That matters. This is what the 7-day practice can begin teaching you. Attention does not have to mean surveillance. Attention can mean companionship. There is a great difference between monitoring yourself and accompanying yourself. Monitoring asks, are you performing correctly? Accompanying asks, what is this experience like for you? Monitoring searches for mistakes. Accompanying remains present. Monitoring often carries anxiety. Accompanying can carry warmth. This may be one of the most useful changes you take beyond the 7 days. You can accompany the body through a meal, through an appointment, through a workout, through a rest day, through travel, through aging, through uncertainty, through a photograph, through getting dressed, through receiving a compliment, through hearing a careless remark, through the experience of changing. Instead of constantly standing outside yourself and evaluating, you step back inside. What does this feel like? What do I need? What matters here? What can I enjoy? What deserves attention? That is participation. And this is where the smaller open question begins to answer itself. If your body no longer has to spend every day auditioning for your approval, what can reclaimed attention become? It can become presence. You sit with someone and actually hear them, because half your mind is no longer wondering how your body looks in the chair. You take a photograph and keep it because the memory matters more than whether one angle pleased you. You taste food. You hear music. You walk through a place and look around. You laugh without immediately thinking about your face. You go swimming before some imaginary future date. You wear the outfit that fits now. You accept an invitation. You rest. You create something. You think about the world. You become interested in things beyond yourself. That is one of the paradoxes of treating the body with more respect. You may end up thinking about it less. When it is no longer an emergency project, it can return to being the place from which you participate in life. The candle lights the room. You do not need to stare at the candle every second. That is not what light is for. Light helps you see everything else. These 7 days are not meant to make you obsessed with gratitude. They are meant to interrupt hostility long enough for a different relationship to become possible. Then you live from that relationship. You take care of practical needs. You respect limits. You enjoy what can be enjoyed. You ask for help when appropriate. You change what you choose to change from care rather than contempt. You stop making every day an exam. And if one day during the 7 becomes difficult, nothing has been lost. You might wake and dislike what you see. The flame is still available. You might feel physically uncomfortable. The flame is still available. You might receive news you did not want. The flame is still available alongside real support. You might hear yourself return to an old insult. The flame is still available. You might forget the practice entirely until evening. The flame is still available. Warmth does not keep attendance. It does not say, "You missed yesterday, therefore you cannot return today." That would only reproduce the old conditional relationship. Return whenever you become aware. That is all. There is no perfect 7-day participant. There is only a person becoming more conscious of the atmosphere they create inside themselves. At first, the changes may be almost invisible. You choose a less cruel sentence. You stop tugging at your clothing. You sit without holding your stomach in. You eat when hungry instead of turning the signal into an argument. You rest earlier. You schedule something you have delayed. You say, "Please do not comment on my body." You recognize that another person's appearance is not evidence against yours. You thank your hands. You thank your feet. You thank the part that feels easy to appreciate. You offer neutrality to the part that does not. Small moments. The flame is small too. It still matters. And gradually, your grown hands learn a new reflex. When vulnerability appears, they do not reach first for criticism. They move closer around the light. They protect. They listen. They seek support where support belongs. They stop asking the smaller hands to prove that they deserve warmth. This is the inheritance you can change inside yourself. Care no longer has to flow in only one direction. The younger part does not have to spend a lifetime becoming useful enough to receive what should never have required earning. You can give it now. Not everything. Not all at once. Enough for this moment. Enough for today. Enough to say, "I see how hard you have worked." Enough to say, "You do not have to disappear to be loved." Enough to say, "Your body is not the entrance fee for belonging." Enough to say, "We can make choices without becoming enemies." Enough to say, "Thank you." And if thank you still catches in the throat, there is no punishment. Return to willingness. I am willing to find one thing I can appreciate about my body today. One thing is enough to pass the flame. One honest appreciation. One interruption of cruelty. One boundary. One act of practical care. One moment of presence. The practice becomes less about producing 7 perfect days and more about discovering that warmth can return every day. That is hope. A new relationship becomes believable, not through a spectacular promise, through consistency without punishment, through care that remains when the mirror changes, through respect that remains when energy changes, through practical support when circumstances change, through the grown hands showing the smaller hands, again through action rather than performance, that the flame is not being taken away. And now the practice can begin to become quieter. The teaching no longer needs so many words. You know the image, you know the direction, you know what protection feels like. You know the difference between a fist and a shelter. You know that gratitude does not mean denial. You know that support is strength. You know that boundaries belong inside kindness. You know that the body does not owe you proof before receiving respect. You know where the flame goes. inward. That is where the warmth belongs now. Not all of it, not at the expense of anyone you love. Enough to stop leaving yourself outside the circle of your own care. If these 7 days teach you anything, let it be this. Your body does not need to become a better body before you become a kinder companion to it. You can begin where you are, with the face you have today, the energy you have today, the history you carry today, the questions that remain unanswered, the parts you appreciate easily, the parts you are still learning how to meet without judgment. Nothing has to be forced. The smaller hands inside you do not need another performance. They need evidence that warmth can remain. A difficult mirror does not remove it. A tired day does not remove it. A change in your body does not remove it. A moment of comparison does not remove it. You can return. That is the response worth watching for across these 7 days. Not a miracle demanded from the body. A relationship responding to a new quality of attention. You may catch yourself earlier. You may speak with more respect. You may recognize a need before overriding it. You may set a boundary sooner. You may ask for appropriate help with less shame. You may spend less time examining yourself and more time participating in your life. That reclaimed attention was the answer waiting beneath the second question. It becomes living, seeing, tasting, creating, resting, connecting, being present for the life your body has been carrying you through. And now the words can become smaller. Thank you, body, for carrying me. I am learning kindness. I listen without attacking. I respect what I need. I can care without control. My worth is not measured by appearance. Rest does not reduce me. Support does not shame me. Bounder is protect what matters. I can seek help. I can ask questions. I can change without hatred. I can remain human while learning. My body is not my enemy. I choose respectful language. I choose honest care. I pass warmth inward. I shelter the flame. My hands can soften. My voice can soften. My attention can return. Warmth belongs here. Care belongs here. Respect belongs here. I belong here. One warm flame. Open hands. A sheltered light. Warmth inward. No earning. The way you apologize for needing a break. The way you override your own signals so often that eventually you become unsure what those signals even mean. This is not a reason to blame yourself. The mind learns through repetition. The nervous system learns through experience. Habits become efficient because the brain prefers familiar pathways, even when those pathways are not especially compassionate. You learned how to keep moving. You learned how to stay useful. You learned how to meet expectations. You learned how to perform being fine. For many people, that performance becomes almost invisible. Someone asks how you are. You say, fine. Your shoulders are tight. You say, fine. You have not rested properly in days. You say, fine. You are carrying grief in the background of everything. You say, fine. You have been holding tension in your jaw since morning. You say, fine. You do not want anyone to worry. You do not want to become difficult. You do not want to seem weak. You do not want to be the person who needs something. So the body holds what the mouth does not say, not as punishment, not because you created your struggles through thought, not because every physical feeling has an emotional cause. Human bodies are complex, and health is complex. But emotionally, there are times when you ignore yourself because you have become skilled at attending to everyone else first. You know how to ask whether someone else ate. You know how to tell someone you love to rest. You know how to say, do not be so hard on yourself. You know how to bring someone a glass of water. You know how to sit beside a friend who is hurting. You know how to tell a child that they do not need to be perfect. You know how to reassure someone who is frightened. You know how to soften your voice when another person is vulnerable. You may be very good at tenderness, just not when the tenderness is meant for you. That is where this practice begins to become interesting. Because the question is not whether you know how to care. You already know. The question is where your care has been going. For years, it may have traveled outward faster than inward, toward family, toward work, toward children, toward partners, toward friends, toward deadlines, toward people who needed reassurance, toward people who expected you to be available, toward situations that demanded your energy. You learn to offer patience outward. You learn to offer encouragement outward. You learn to offer second chances outward. You learn to offer understanding outward. Then, when you turn toward your own body, the language changed. Why are you tired? Why do you look like that? Why can you not keep up? Why are you so sensitive? Why does this hurt? Why are you hungry again? Why are you changing? Why can you not be the way you were before? No audition. No punishment. Just care. If one of those words feels especially true for you, choose it. Maybe your word is respect. Maybe it is warmth. Maybe patience. Maybe trust. Maybe care. Maybe enough. If you want to mark these 7 days in a simple way, place your word in the comments, not as a promise to perform perfectly, as a word you want to return to when the old language gets loud. Let that word become yours. Then go live. Eat the meal. Wear the clothes. Make the appointment. Take the photograph. Set the boundary. Accept the invitation. Rest when rest is appropriate. Move in ways that support you. Ask for qualified care when something needs more than comforting words. Look beyond the mirror. Use your eyes to see the world. Use your hands to make something. Use your voice where truth matters. Use your attention on things larger than self-judgment. The flame was never meant to keep you staring inward forever. It was meant to give enough light for you to step back into your life. 7 days of thanking your body may not make every difficulty disappear, and your body does not owe you a timetable. But you may begin to see how quickly the relationship can respond when appreciation replaces some of the criticism that once filled the room. That is enough. You have carried the flame outward for a long time. Your grown hands know how to protect warmth. The smaller hands know how to receive it now. There is no need to grip. There is no need to prove. The light can be held without fear. The care can move both ways. All is well. Your hands remain open. The smaller hands are no longer waiting in darkness. The flame has crossed the distance between them, and now the warmth knows the way home. Imagine hearing those questions from someone else every single day. Imagine living beside a person who greeted your exhaustion with irritation, your hunger with suspicion, your aging with disappointment, your pain with inconvenience, and your appearance with constant correction. You would understand why that relationship felt exhausting. Yet when the relationship is with the body, harshness often disguises itself as motivation. You tell yourself you are only trying to improve, only trying to stay disciplined, only trying to become healthier, only trying to look better, only trying to make sure you do not let yourself go. The intention may be care. The language may still feel like war. And this distinction matters. You can want change without hating the place you are starting from. You can pursue support without insulting yourself. You can make a health appointment without treating your body as a failure. You can choose nourishing food without turning every meal into a moral judgment. You can move your body without using movement as punishment. You can rest without needing to collapse first. You can have preferences about how you look while still refusing to make your appearance the measure of your worth. You can grieve a change in your body and still speak respectfully to the body that changed. Two things can be true at once. You can be frustrated and compassionate. You can be scared and kind. You can wish something were different and still stop speaking to yourself as an enemy. This is where many people become afraid of self-kindness. They worry that kindness means giving up. If I stop criticizing myself, what will make me change? If I stop pushing, will I become lazy? If I stop judging my body, will I stop taking care of it? If I accept where I am, will I stay here forever? These fears make sense when critiqued. Schism has been used as fuel for a long time. When you have relied on shame to make yourself move, compassion can feel suspicious. When you have relied on fear to control yourself, respect can feel weak. When you have relied on pressure to stay productive, rest can feel dangerous. But pressure and care are not the same thing. Fear and wisdom are not the same thing. Punishment and discipline are not the same thing. A person can make thoughtful choices from respect. A person can seek change from care. A person can take health seriously without declaring war on the body. You do not have to hate yourself into becoming someone worthy of kindness. Kindness is not the prize at the end. It is one of the ways you travel. For the next 7 days, that is the deeper invitation beneath all the words. Not to become a different person in a week, not to force your body to prove anything, not to demand a dramatic response, not to create another challenge you can fail. The invitation is to become curious about the relationship itself. What happens when criticism is no longer the only voice? What happens when gratitude enters the conversation? What happens when you begin noticing what has been present all along? You may discover how automatic some of your old language has become. That discovery does not mean you are doing the practice badly. It means you are finally hearing what used to happen unnoticed. You may catch yourself looking in the mirror and immediately criticizing something. That moment of recognition matters. You may hear yourself call your body lazy when it is tired. That recognition matters. You may realize you have been holding your stomach in for an hour. That recognition matters. You may notice that you feel guilty while eating something you enjoy. That recognition matters. You may hear an old family sentence come out of your own mouth. That recognition matters. Awareness is not failure. Awareness is where a different choice becomes possible. The old habit may still appear. You do not need to panic when it does. You do not need to replace every negative thought with a perfect affirmation before the thought is finished. You do not need to police your mind. You do not need to become frightened of having an unkind reaction. Sometimes the most healing change in a relationship begins with one interruption. You hear the old sentence. You do not continue it. You feel the familiar judgment. You do not build a house around it. You notice the criticism. You do not hand it a microphone. That alone changes something. There may be a part of you that wants proof before offering gratitude. I will appreciate my body when it changes. I will thank it when I feel better. I will be kinder when I like what I see. I will rest when I have done enough. I will respect myself when I become more disciplined. This bargain can continue for years because the finish line keeps moving. You reach one goal. The mind invents another. You change one thing. The eye finds the next flaw. You receive one compliment. The mind dismisses it. You become stronger. Now you should be stronger still. You lose weight. Now you fear gaining it back. You gain needed weight. Now you worry how others will judge you. You become healthier in one area. Now another area receives all your attention. The problem was never only the target. The problem was the agreement that kindness had to be earned. That agreement can be questioned, not destroyed in one dramatic moment. Questioned. Is it actually true that my body must satisfy me before I speak to it respectfully? Is it actually true that tiredness deserves criticism? Is it actually true that aging is a personal failure? Is it actually true that rest must be purchased with exhaustion? Is it actually true that the body owes me sameness? Is it actually true that I can only be grateful for what I would never change? You may find that the answer is no. You may find that gratitude can coexist with complexity. You can thank your legs for carrying you and still wish they felt different. You can appreciate your eyes and still need glasses. You can respect your back and still seek help for pain. You can care for your skin and still notice changes you did not ask for. You can appreciate your body while using medicine prescribed for you, attending therapy, working with qualified professionals, asking questions, seeking support, setting boundaries, or making practical changes. Gratitude does not cancel reality. It changes the tone of the relationship you bring into reality. That tone matters because you live with yourself every day. There is no room you enter more often than your own inner conversation. No voice follows you more closely than the one you use with yourself. No relationship is more constant than the relationship you have with the body through which you experience your life. This body has been present for every version of you. The child who did not understand why someone's words hurt. The teenager who compared themselves to everyone. The young adult who tried to become acceptable. The person who worked too hard. The person who loved. The person who lost. The person who recovered from things nobody saw. The person who made mistakes. The person who kept going. The person sitting here now. Your body has changed through those chapters because living changes a body. That is not evidence of failure. That is evidence of passage. There may be marks on you that tell stories you do not love. There may be areas you still avoid looking at. There may be sensations that bring fear. There may be limitations that frustrate you. There may be grief for the body you once had or expected to have. Gratitude does not ask you to erase that grief. It asks whether grief must be accompanied by contempt. It does not. You are permitted to mourn what changed without punishing what remains. You are permitted to miss an earlier version of yourself without insulting the present one. You are permitted to seek answers without turning uncertainty into blame. You are permitted to say, "This is hard," without adding, "and therefore I am wrong." My dear, sometimes the most respectful thing you can say about your body is not something grand. Sometimes it is only this: you have carried a lot. That sentence asks for no performance. It does not require you to love what you see. It does not promise that every struggle disappears. It recognizes history. You have carried a lot. Long days, interrupted sleep, stress you did not choose, responsibilities you did not expect, goodbyes you did not feel ready for, fear you hid from other people, work you completed while your heart was somewhere else, care you gave while you were tired, rooms you entered while doubting yourself, conversations you survived while pretending you were calm, changes you adapted to because life kept moving, joy too, laughter that shook your chest, hands you held, music you danced to, food you tasted, places you walked, people you embraced, sunlight you felt, tears you cried. Your body was there, not as an ornament, not as a project, not as a before picture waiting to become an after picture, as the living place through which you experienced it all. That deserves at least a moment of respect, not forced worship, respect. And respect can begin before love. That may be one of the most important things to understand during these 7 days. If love feels too far away, begin with respect. If gratitude feels too difficult, begin with acknowledgement. If appreciation feels impossible, begin with curiosity. You do not need to leap from criticism to devotion. There are many honest places between those 2 points. I am listening. I am learning. I am trying to speak differently. I am willing to stop making everything a fight. I am willing to recognize what I usually overlook. These are quieter beginnings. Often, quieter beginnings last. There is a reason the mind resists this at first. Criticism creates the sensation of action. It feels as though something is being done. You identify the flaw. You analyze it. You plan against it. You monitor it. You promise to fix it. The mind feels busy, and busyness can feel safer than uncertainty. Gratitude asks you to do something different. It asks you to stop using constant correction as proof that you care. It asks you to consider that attention can be warm instead of sharp. That can feel unfamiliar, especially if nobody modeled it for you, especially if your family spoke harshly about bodies, especially if praise was always linked to appearance, productivity, strength, thinness, endurance, youth, or self-sacrifice. Especially if you learned that the most admirable, able person was the person who needed the least. You may have become very good at needing the least, very good at being low maintenance, very good at saying, I can handle it, very good at waiting, very good at giving someone else the comfortable chair, very good at finishing the task before eating, very good at making your discomfort invisible, very good at treating endurance as identity. But your body was never meant to earn belonging by becoming silent. Your needs are not a moral failure. Tiredness is not disobedience. Hunger is not weakness. Emotion is not incompetence. Aging is not carelessness. Asking for support is not defeat. There are days when the kindest response will be rest. There are days when it will be movement. There are days when it will be food. There are days when it will be quiet. There are days when it will be an appointment. There are days when it will be saying no. There are days when it will be asking someone you trust to sit with you. The practice is not to decide in advance what care must look like. The practice is to become less hostile toward the conversation. That is enough for today. You do not need to solve your relationship with your body tonight. You do not need to prepare 7 perfect days. You do not need to promise that you will never criticize yourself again. You only need to recognize something that may have been hidden beneath the noise. The body you have been correcting is also the body that has been carrying you. The body you have been rushing is also the body that has been trying to keep pace with your life. The body you have been comparing is also the body that belongs to no one else. And before you ask it for one more change, one more improvement, one more achievement, there is another kind of conversation waiting to begin. A conversation that does not start with what is wrong. A conversation that begins somewhere warmer. Warmth does not need to arrive as a grand feeling. Sometimes it begins as a change in tone, a softer sentence, a less accusing thought. A moment when you choose not to add another wound to the one already there. You may not feel grateful yet. You may still be learning what gratitude toward your own body even means. That is all right. There is no need to force tenderness into a place where judgment has lived for years. Real care does not enter by breaking the door down. It enters when the room becomes safe enough to receive it. There is an image I want you to hold now. Not as an exercise you have to perform correctly. Not as something mystical you need to believe. Only as a picture that may help you understand what has been missing. Imagine a single warm flame resting between your grown hands. Small, steady, bright enough to see. Not so large that it overwhelms you. Just one living point of warmth. You know this flame. You have carried versions of it for years. It is the warmth you have offered when someone you loved was frightened. The patience you found when another person needed more time. The care you placed into a meal. The hand you put on someone's shoulder. The message you sent when you knew a friend was struggling. The extra blanket. The ride home. The quiet question, are you okay? The forgiveness you gave before you were completely ready. The reassurance you offered to someone who thought they had failed. All of that belongs to this flame. It is the part of you that knows how to care. You did not need a course to learn it. You did not need a perfect philosophy. Something in you already understood that when life becomes difficult, warmth matters. Now look more closely at the image. Your grown hands are holding that flame. They know how to protect it from being blown out. They know not to grip it. They know not to crush it. They know that fire does not become brighter because you squeeze harder. They know that too much force can destroy what you are trying to preserve.